Hello, everyone. I hope your day is starting off as fantastic as it possibly can. It's Canada Day weekend here, the day before Canada Day. I thought I'd give you a quick update, a short video today. It seems that Canada has caved, and so has the Senate in the United States caved to Trump's demands. It seems like everyone's caving to Trump's demands. Reported here by the Canadian press on Yahoo Finance, Canada rescinds digital service tax to resume negotiations with the US. Now, as you recall, I did a video just a couple of days ago about the digital service tax. You can watch that. I'll link it in the top right corner over here. That tax is technically already in effect, but was scheduled to commence today. Finance Minister François-Philippe Champlain said Canada is rescinding the digital service tax and will resume trade negotiations with the United States. That announcement was made in a statement following a phone call between Prime Minister Mark Carney and US President Donald Trump. The move comes 3 days after Donald Trump had that threatening outburst on social media where he terminated all trade discussions with Canada because of the tax. Champlain said in a statement that the tax is being rescinded in anticipation of those trade talks resuming, and Canada is still aiming for a deal with the United States. A deal? What kind of a deal can you have with Donald Trump? By July 21st, the deadline set by Carney and Trump at the G7 meeting. Now, this came after statements like this from Donald Trump, who said in the Oval Office that the US has such power over Canada and that he was upset the country was following a taxation strategy similar to Europe's. It's not going to work out well for Canada, he said, of imposing the digital service tax, which was passed into law last year with a delayed application. Why did we pass a law last year and delay the application? That's a typical Canadian thing to do, to allow the tech companies to get ready to pay the tax. That was probably a big mistake. If the tax would have gone forward, it would have left US companies with a $2 billion US bill due at the end of this month. So Canada is foregoing a $2 billion revenue to continue the trade discussions with the US. These global digital firms are often able to skirt paying taxes in the countries where they operate, and the last Liberal government pitched the DST as a way to bring the tax code up to date and capture revenues earned in Canada by firms abroad. So it seems that our government has weighed their options, and they've decided that they could forego this $2 billion in revenue and put this tax on hold in an effort to continue what they call the Trade and Security Agreement. And in those trade discussions, they're trying to lower these 50% tariffs that are on Canadian steel and aluminum. And the effect of those tariffs and the decreased demand for Canadian steel and aluminum would probably result in a bigger than $2 billion hit to the Canadian economy. So weighing those two options, there's no other way of describing it. They caved to Donald Trump's demands. And the unfortunate truth is, to set up new buyers and new trade routes and set up new trade relationships with other countries. There's other countries that would buy our steel and aluminum, but to snap your finger and try and do that tomorrow is very difficult. This is going to take time. I've always said that this is going to be a difficult and long-term process. And as I mentioned in some other videos, it's going to require us to increase our port facility infrastructure, especially for exporting large and heavy raw materials. And it's going to require us to increase our airport facilities because that's mainly what you use to export more manufactured and higher quality smaller materials. Any other country that we want to trade with is going to require air and sea travel. The United States is the only country that we share a border with that we can just simply drive the materials across the border. And I know some of you pointed out in the comment section, we have a border with Denmark. Well, that doesn't count. It's not just Canada that's caving to Donald Trump's demands. Headline here in Yahoo Finance, last-minute changes to Senate's big, beautiful bill stun the clean energy industry and Elon Musk. The Senate is making a final push to advance President Trump's signature legislation with a flurry of last-minute changes. And these changes are directly happening because of Donald Trump's demands. He's literally threatening the members in the Senate. He suggested that Republicans look past the deficit implications of this bill, urging them to pass it as soon as possible. And he tweeted, "Remember, you still have to get reelected," letting any member who delays or votes no on this bill that he would make it his personal mission to make sure they don't get reelected by probably funding a different candidate, a different MAGA type candidate in the primaries to replace them. So he is basically ruling like a mob boss, and he's in total control, and he's calling all the shots. And like he said, he has all the cards. And these are some of the changes that the Senate is making to this bill. And I'm going to just review a couple of them because although I don't like to cover U.S. Politics, these types of changes are going to affect the whole world. The initial Senate blueprint had offered a slower rollback of clean energy credits for things like solar power and electric vehicles. But the last minute changes to the bill put it more in line with the harder line House version, which seeks to eliminate the credits faster. Some provisions are even more immediate, with the Senate version proposing to eliminate EV credits by September 30th of this year. On top of that, a new tax was unveiled when the bill was released that would not just eliminate government help for renewable energy projects, but add a new cost for wind and solar projects completed after 2027. The changes stunned many clean energy advocates, not just Musk, with a statement from the American Clean Power Association saying the effect would be to strand hundreds of billions of dollars in current investment on renewables in the United States. This is even a more draconian move than what Danielle Smith implemented in Alberta when she called a review for all clean and renewable energy projects and put those all on hold last year, which basically dried up all renewable energy investment in Alberta. The debt impact of the bill could rise to $4.5 trillion if these rumored adjustments are made. And Elon Musk's reaction, and I usually don't care what Elon Musk's reaction is to anything, but I'll read you his quote. He said that this is utterly insane and destructive, handouts to industries of the past, while severely damaging industries of the future. Of course, he owns one of the biggest companies that deals in industries of the future. So here we are now in a situation where this guy over here basically controls everything. Now, there he is standing under a sign that says, Trump digs coal. So it's his way or no way. He controls the funding. He controls the government. He controls all three branches of the U.S. government. What he says goes. And the United States, that usually is the leader in innovation and leader in new technology in the world, is now going to, I guess, dig coal. It's just a sad and sorry state for the world and for North America in particular. Remember, Canada is very integrated with the U.S. economy. When you look at the big picture, what this is going to do is just let China have an even bigger head start on all of these new technologies. And China's now going to lead the world in EV manufacturing, in new renewable technologies. And China is going to continue to form increased trade alliances with the rest of the world. Remember, the United States only represents about 5% of the Earth's population. And China, with its trade agreements with the BRICS nations, the nations who are developing quickly now and who have large populations, when you put that group together, the population that the BRICS nations control is well over half the people on Earth. So the United States is becoming more isolationist. They're going to take a step back in technology, and I guess they're going to start burning coal again. China is juggling many balls at the same time. They like to sell cheap manufactured products to the United States to keep U.S. consumers happy. But at the same time, they're accelerating their high-tech and renewable industries much faster than the United States. So it's a sad situation for the world, not to mention what this regressive U.S. administration, the effect that they're going to have on the progress that all other countries are trying to make on the battle against climate change. And as far as Canada is concerned, I'm a little bit in a quandary here because we did cave. There's no other way of describing it. We have caved to Donald Trump's demands and put on hold this digital service tax. But as I mentioned on the previous video that I did on this topic, there was always the potential that we would back down on this if it meant that we could move forward the security and trade agreement that we're, I guess, negotiating with the United States right now. I don't really have a positive outlook for how that agreement is going to come into fruition. We're saying that we're going to try and get something done by the 21st of this month. But what's the chance of that? Could this guy here just change his mind and throw something else on the table? Throw another tantrum on social media and put Canada in a position to back down on something else? And I guess the view of our government is that getting some sort of agreement or at least understanding on trade is much more important than a small digital service tax because, of course, these 50% tariffs over the long run are really going to hit our industries. But there's no doubt in my mind that we have to continue building new trade alliances and new supply chain routes and set up new destinations for our exports like steel and aluminum. Doing business with the Europeans, Japan, and China are much, much more important now for Canada's future because we just simply will not get a fair shake while this guy's in charge. Leave some comments in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think of this. It's hard to have a definite opinion at this point because none of us really know what the negotiations are. They're all happening behind closed doors. They're all talking about a security and trade arrangement. It's not a renegotiation of our trade deal, the USMCA. It's this other thing now that's happening behind closed doors. So it's hard for me to have an opinion because an opinion at this time wouldn't be really based on any facts. So we'll have to see what happens should this deal be reached and announced before the end of the month. And when that happens, we'll be sure to do another video about that. So have a fantastic rest of your day and whatever activities you're planning. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content, and I'll catch you all on the next one.